Welcome back to Monday's Admissions from the Heart with Jewel Fitzgerald. Last week, I talked to you about my weight loss journey. What I couldn't get into detail was about the walking part of my weight loss journey. So, we're going to talk about that today because that was a real key part in how I lost the weight, in addition to eating the proper foods, because proper food eating is huge, volume, that kind of thing. It helps you with losing the weight. And you can do that without even doing any movement. But if you keep it moving, it'll come off even faster. So what I did was I was always an active person anyway. I mean, from since I was a kid, because I like to walk anyway, walking everywhere. All I could do was walk because, that's the only form of transportation I had as a child besides riding a bike. So I was always active, ran track, did some shot put when I was in um, middle school, junior high then, and high school I did run track. But that was younger and I didn't do anything else with that. It wasn't like I was going to be an Olympic person, just doing something to keep occupied. But then when I got to a point when I was older and I had to lose the weight and I lost the weight with Weight Watchers, I decided to, and they were also always encourage us to do some activity, but it wasn't a necessary thing. Now they probably encouraging more about activity, but at that time it was just eat what you needed to eat, stay within your points, and you'll be good. But if you add activity, oh man, it falls off. And that's what I found out. So what I did start doing then, and I mentioned this last week, I did start walking 3 days, 3 times a week then. And I walked with 3 different friends, and that's how I was losing the weight, and it came off. So eventually I got to the point where I had lost all the weight, and I had lost 53 pounds when I was 53 years old. So my husband was a Biggest Loser watcher. I'm sure some of you guys remember that. It used to be a TV show where they had that on every week about the Biggest Loser. And every time they would have that particular show at the end, they would all do a marathon, running or walking a marathon. So the crazy part is most of them usually hadn't got all the way down to their goal weight. And here they were doing 26.2 miles. And I kept thinking, man, I've lost the weight and I haven't done a 26.2 miles and I'm smaller. So I was thinking maybe I would love to do a marathon just like they were doing on that show, but only do it in a park. I mean, I just didn't get understand what the big deal was about racers. I saw them doing marathons and they would be falling over the line, half dead, and all that kind of stuff for what? They weren't even getting first place. I understood the ones that were first, second, and third elite members, they were making money because that was their job. But the other people, I just didn't get what the big deal was about doing any kind of race, especially a marathon. I mean, I know I'd been in track and I was into sports and like to watch the Olympics, but this marathon thing was like, So I said, all I need to do is let me go onto a park just so I could say I could physically do a 26.2. And that was what my plan was. I was going to train to do that. But of course, I never started training to do anything. So there are two marathoners at that time. There were two marathoners in our church. One was a marathoner that was always running to become Boston qualified. And then we had another marathoner who walked the full marathons. And they were both really deep into doing the run and walking part of this marathon. So the one that was trying to be Boston qualified, he did the Rite Aid, it either was Rite Aid or Revco, because I can't remember what year that was when he did this race. He did the Rite Aid, Revco, whatever it was called, was the Cleveland Marathon now. He did the race, did a full 26.2 marathon, and he was able to get back to church because these marathons start early in the morning, like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So he was able to do whatever hours it took him to do that, those 4 or 5 hours, to get back to church before church was ended. He was late. He wasn't on time, but he was late. He got there in time to do the communion for that day. So when he came in with this red, dripping wet, he was still full of sweat, Rite Aid or Revco t-shirt on. His medal was out in the car because he didn't wear that in, but he did have his shirt on. You could tell, oh, where did he come from? Because he was hot sweat, but he wanted to be at church, wanted to get his communion, wanted to be with the body in spite of what he just did, running 26 miles. Man, when I saw that shirt, I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to just try to do this because I was going to run this run in a park just to say I could do 26, 22 miles. I wanted to get that shirt. So I said, next year I'm going to be in that Rite Aid Repco marathon. And that's when the thought of trying to do a marathon really stuck in my head and really said that I wanted to do this. And the interesting part in 2011 was also the year that I retired. I think I talked about that earlier in another video, or maybe not. Maybe I don't know if I mentioned about retirement earlier, but I know I'm going to talk about being a retiree pretty soon. So I retired from the government in 2011, and I had told the people there, because they always ask you, what do you want as a gift, or what do you want to do, blah, 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 have a party. And we did have a party. So what they did, instead of, I don't know what they normally give in retirement, I'm even trying to think, most people, they do give gifts and money. They gave me, one of the women is really creative. She had a shoe that she created, and in that shoe, they stuffed a bunch of money. So that way I could go buy me new shoes, an outfit, and everything. There was so much money in there that I did buy shoes and running apparel to start training for this marathon that I was going to do the following year in 2012. So this was 2011 when I saw this guy with this shirt on. So in 2011, in order to train for that marathon, I had to do lower races first, had to train and practice. So I did my first 5K, 10K, and half marathon in 2011 in order to get ready for the 2012 Rite Aid. Wow, I put on here 2011. It should have been 2012 Rite Aid instead of 2011. So it was 2012, a year later, when I actually did that Rite Aid, that first marathon. And this is that picture of me finishing the first marathon. So what I didn't tell you was, okay, I was planning on running it, but then I started realizing while I was training to run it, my body said, you need to be walking this, because the one, okay, I tell you, there were two marathoners. One was a runner, one was a walker. And the walker was trying to convince me, you can still, why don't you just walk it? And I told him, and someone else, another woman, because she's a personal trainer in our church too, we're saying you could walk and run, it doesn't even matter. The miles is still 26.2. Yeah, it's going to take a little longer to walk it. That's why I was thinking it's going to take long enough to run it. Talking about walking it, man, I just can't imagine. What do you do? What are you thinking about? What's going on in those hours that you're out here on this course for 26.2 miles? It's not a short race. So the walker and the other personal trainer, they really couldn't explain what they were doing, thinking, because I had to learn that on my own, because we all at different places and we're all doing different things when we're out there. But I found my body said, no, you need to walk this like the walker was telling you. So I'm always blaming the two walkers, the walker and the running, that it was their fault that I even got into doing a marathon at all. Because I saw what they were doing, and it looked like a bunch of fun. And then I started finding out that 3 times a week wasn't enough for me just to walk. That training for the marathon, 5K, 10K, half Ks, or whatever races I was trying to do at that time was more fun. And it just helped keep the weight off. And what was really cool about being a marathoner was that I could eat anything I want. So by eating, portion sizes almost didn't matter. I could have a big hunk of whatever and eat it, and I was still good to go, because my metabolism was so high from all the training and all the doing the marathon. And I love that part, being able to eat whatever I wanted to, because I could. Didn't have to worry about gaining weight because I was burning off so much energy. So there we go with how I got into the first marathon. I'm still blaming it on the two guys from church. One I see all the time, because he's still doing half marathon. He's still doing full marathons occasionally, and he's also biking long 100-mile or whatever. He's biked with friends from Cleveland all the way down to the Ohio River, so he still keeps active doing that. So he's still doing that. And the other one, he's in another church right now in another city because they moved. So I'm not sure if he's still doing marathons or not, but I'm sure he's trying to still stay in shape. So thank you guys for setting me off on that marathon path. Anyhow, so that was it. It wasn't, once I did those three, that just opened up the floodgates for doing races, because, oh my goodness, doing races, not only did it help me eat whatever I wanted to, and it was just so much fun. I mean, it was fun, but not so fun. I mean, the training is hard. You're got blisters. I mean, there's drama, there's interaction with people, it's weather, because all these races, no matter what the weather is, you got to be in the rain, the snow, the sleet, whatever. Rarely is a race canceled because of weather. If it is, it's really bad. My first marathon, the one I was just telling you about, that one was canceling as I was in it. And I'm so glad that it didn't fully get canceled. The reason why it was canceling behind me, because they have flag signs to tell you whatever the level of the race danger is. And the black flag is the one that tells you, okay, this race is canceled because whatever's going through, some weather thing. And in our case, that first one I did, it was really hot, 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 and people were passing out, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I don't even want to try to go back to that darn picture because I know how this PowerPoint is and won't let me go back. So that picture you saw me walking, I was fully sleeved. I had long pants on. Temperature was 90 plus. My plan was, and I had that pack on my waist, my plan was to shed some of those clothes as it got hotter because when the day started, it was really cold because we started by the lake. It was super cold, super cold. So I was going to shed some of the long sleeves, and I think I may have had short pants planned on in that pack. I don't remember that, but I knew I was planning on taking that long sleeves off. But it was hot. So, however, and I don't even think I started off with the cap even because it was cold. I think I might have had a hat on. You see, I had a visor on that one. When I ended, I had a hat to keep my head warm. But it got hotter and hotter as the race went on. And it took me about 6.5, 7, something like that hours to do the whole race. So by the time I got to the end, it was in the 90 pluses. So what I didn't know was behind me, they were shutting down the race. If you hadn't reached X point, whatever that was, they were telling you, here, get back into these vehicles, your race is over, we'll take you to the end, or whatever they were doing. But they didn't finish the race on foot, wherever they are. And I didn't know that. And I'm so glad because I can know that if I had to be snatched because I was falling behind or in a danger zone because it was so hot. I'd have been like, man, they did all that training, and I couldn't even finish the race. So God spared me from that mental agony because there was enough mental agony just doing the 26.2 miles and in the heat. So as I was going, something told me, the Holy Spirit said, no, don't you take that stuff off because I know as a hiker that the clothes I had on, everything I had on was all weekend clothes. So it wasn't making me hot. It turned out that clothes was keeping me cool. The long sleeves was keeping the sun from burning me, and the same with the pants, even though the pants were black. They were still keeping me cool because they were wicking off any sweat water that was falling on me because I was sweating. So that kept me cool. And that picture there was me walking into the finish line, and the announcer announces all the people that come in, Juel Fitzgerald from XYZ City, blah, 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 walking in, number, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy said, well, look at this one. She's walking in like this, just chilling after walking 26.2 miles. And she's fully clothed with her arms. He started describing my outfit. Like she's fully dressed because everybody else was coming in there with skin showing, whatever they were wearing, because it was hot. And I'm all covered like I'm in I don't know, something cold, but I was cool because I was literally cool because of the clothes, keeping me cool and keeping the sun off from burning my skin. But then he went into the science of, but however, wearing those long wicking clothes like that is protecting them from the sun, blah, 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 blah. So it was kind of cool that he even said all that while I was coming in. I'm like, wow, I wish I had kept a recording of that. Because I don't, well, I think we might have a video in there somewhere hearing him talking about how I was dressed. So that was that. Got off on a tangent there, but there we go. So you can see I got this whole list of stuff while you're hearing me ramble off of all the races I started doing after that. I mean, it was like, races became a type of obsession. And the odder the race was, meaning if it was some kind of special themey thing going on, I said, I want to do that because I was going for the medals, I was going for the t-shirts, I was going for all kind of free things because there's a lot of stuff. You go to those expos for each of those races, you get all kind of wonderful, tons of freebie stuff. I mean, there was tons of stuff I never had to buy anymore because they kept getting them free, tons of chapsticks, all kind of stuff. So it's just a really crazy thing. I got that kind of obsessed starting in 2011. So I did all these different races here. the seven, these medals here are the 7 full marathons that I did. So this was that first one that I did that you saw the picture over in 2011. Then I did another one this is in Columbus, this is in Arizona, this is in Hawaii, this is in Dayton, this was in New Mexico, and then this is back in Cleveland. So I started and ended my 7 full marathons in Cleveland, ended in Cleveland. In fact, a lot of these here, the Cleveland Marathon offers races from 5K all the way to full marathon. And whatever medal they had, I got a medal from every last one of those levels that the Cleveland Marathon offered, because I did that as a goal. Not only does it get the marathon, I went back and went and got the 5, the 10, 15, whatever else they offer, I got them all. So I got a ton more medals, but these are my top 7 because they're the longest marathons of all. And the interesting part about these 7, they're all 26.2 they're all 26.2 miles. But this teeny tiny one, this was the biggest one, the Hawaii one, but this teeny tiny one is called the Bataan. That was 26.2 miles, but it was almost like a mini ultra marathon because it was done in New Mexico in the desert. So that's sand, heat, all kind of stuff. And it took a whole lot longer because it's just one of those harder races to do because of the conditions that it is. And 25% of the people, they usually say, don't finish the race because of the magnitude of it. A lot of them carry those big packs, the fact that the militaries carry, I can't even get the word out, just stuck in my mouth. But the big packs that a military person would do when they out in the trenches, out in the, marching wherever, and they have their hiking boots on, all that kind of stuff. Because that one is one that I treated like a marathon. I mean, like I was hiking, because I actually had hiking boots on. I had spats on to keep the sand out, and I had hiking sticks. The hiking sticks I didn't use until maybe the last 2, 3 miles because I was able to go without them. But I was starting to feel a certain kind of way the last, maybe it was 3, 4 miles, but at the end, and it's like, okay, it's time to pull out these hiking sticks because I was starting to feel something I had never felt ever in any race before at all. So I used those sticks, and those gave me extra power to get through the race and complete it. So anyway, all these races, the 2 other bigger ones was those 2 60 miles that we did in 3 days with Susan G. Komen. So the amazing fun part of all of these, besides, is that I got to meet so many great friends doing this. And it was always like, okay, God, why are you having me do this? How is this helping your mission, having me do these races? I know one thing was to help this temple be healthy for him, doing these races, doing the training, whatever, and then meeting all these people. I mean, I don't know if any person I ever met seeing the God in me ever wanted to have a relationship in here, because he always puts you in situations so that his glory can be seen. And it was seen in all these different methods of doing these races, because every now and then I would get something more than just a medal. Maybe I would, for my age, get first place or something like that, and got a little extra medal or got a little extra kudos or something. But so it was just a cool way to keep my body fit for him, and just to get exposed to a ton of friends. I got so many walking friends just that I just met at all these races, and I'm still walking with a lot of them now. But as usual, God puts you into situations and eventually start weeding you out. So in 2018, 2019, I was starting to get a little tired of training for the races. I love doing the races, especially marathons, because there's something about starting a marathon and finishing it. Because every time I finished a race, I always had some sort of tears, because I was like, wow, I just finished another marathon. I just finished another 10K, half a marathon. It's really the longer ones. The shorter ones, I had tears with those too, because I mean, even though it's 5 miles, 5K, which is 3.1 miles, that's still a lot of miles. There are a lot of people out there that can't walk a couple feet, let alone a mile, 1 mile. So to finish a race in weather, it's just a feeling that only you can feel by participating in that. But especially for a marathoner, because that first marathon, when it was hot, The race was black. The race was closing behind me. When I got to 26, this is before the marathon is 26.2, but when I got to 26, they had people there at the end saying, congratulations, you are a marathoner. That first one, I just really lost it. You didn't see in that picture because I had already did the crying. My crying was still on the thing, like, oh my gosh, I gotta go 2.2 and I'm officially a marathoner. It was just like, oh my goodness, just the feeling of having made it in pain. And because it wasn't like when I got to the end, I was in pain because your muscles and it's hot and but it was at the same time so thrilling to say I made it. I made it. And I'm alive and I'm good to go. Next one. I'm ready to go to the next one at that point. Okay, let's train to go to the next one. It's almost like being on a drug, gonna do this thing. So, but in 2018 and 2019, I started getting a little tired of the training part. Like I said, I love doing the races. It's like if I could do the races without the training, I'd be good to go. But that's not possible. You have to train, especially for a marathon. And for a marathon, it's 26 weeks of training. That's half a year. I have other things to do besides train. I have life. I was a mother. I was all kind of stuff. Depending on what year this was, oh my goodness, it's a lot to train for a marathon in particular. The other ones, mostly, even right now, I could do a 10K easy right now still because I'm still walking. Because I guess that's my minimum training right now because I'm still walking. But a marathon, you gotta go 26 weeks and get that time in, get that exercise in, get whatever it is, because you got cross training involved in there. It's just a lot. So if you don't do the training, you're just not gonna make it to the race. So you gotta train, can't get away from it. So if there was no way I could train without do a race without training, I'd probably still be doing races now. But training is that's just a lot of time out of my schedule, and God had other things He needed me to do. So in 2019, I started weaning off of these races. So I said, okay, let me lower them back, and not do as many. I can just wean off because I didn't want to just stop cold turkey because I knew that wasn't going to be too cool. So I started this wean off period, but God is very funny. Pandemic rolled in. My weaning period did come to a complete stop. I was like, I'm in the middle of training for my last and final number seventh marathon. Like, this is the last one. Number seven, excellent number. Anybody know me, they know I'm all about numbers. So number seven is perfection. I said, okay, it's gonna be our last and final marathon. And then this pandemic came in and said, oh, okay, Cleveland Marathon, we're not doing it physical because we're not allowed to be together. We're not that many people breathing on each other and spreading these darn viruses. So we're going to go completely virtual. Like, oh my goodness. I hate virtuals. I mean, I only like to walk and stuff like, but to do a virtual, that means, okay, you're going to do the same thing in your race, but you're going to choose your own course, wherever that may. Maybe you might use the course that the real race was going to be. I don't know, because some people might have did that, but it'd been a little bit more difficult because the streets aren't blocked off and whatnot for a real race. So for that last marathon, the walker I was telling you about from the church, he and I decided to do this full marathon in two of the Cleveland metro parks, meaning we walked from one metro park north, we walked from South Sugar Reservation through Bedford Reservation and back again. So it's 13 miles one way in each park and then 13 miles back to get to 26.2, 13.1. But anyway, so that was the plan. Hilly Road, hilly, the whole different course than we would have did because it's definitely a lot hilly. I loved hills. I love climbing hills. I always love hills. I don't like going down because that kind of hurts the knees. However, on the seventh one, oh my goodness, the weather was pretty decent. The crazy part, okay, this is in the middle of a pandemic. I even started off the race in a mask, but we still were supposed to be trying to be 6 feet apart. So that was fun having him 6 feet apart. So we had to talk to each other. What you say? 6 feet apart with a mask on. Eventually, I had to take that mask off because it was kind of hard breathing through that thing and walking. Because at that time, I was still wearing an old crazy cloth mask. Ooh, those are really hard to breathe through. Unlike a K95, I can breathe in those really, really good. So that's a whole nother story. Breathe, talking about breathing in a K95 and walking long distance. But anyway, so what was very strange for me, unlike my any other the 6 marathons, any other countless of walks, I was something was not going right with me. At one point, I was starting to wonder if I had COVID because when I would climb a hill, which was my favorite thing to do, I was gasping for air, couldn't breathe. I'm like, what the heck's happening? When I'm going downhill, I was kind of enjoying it. And that was opposite. I'm usually loving going uphill, not liking going downhill. So I was like, oh, good, what's happening here? It's flipping, and I'm already used to this course, so why are we acting weird there? And then I started cramping super early in the walk. Rarely do I ever have any leg cramps because I'm getting the right hydration, I'm getting the right foods because we carry things with us to eat to keep the fuel level going, keep our water level, and keeping our electrolytes going. And none of that was happening, even rubbing it down. I don't know what was going on at that time. So what is going on with these cramps? This is kind of crazy for me to suffering this early, and I wasn't even halfway through the race. And it was like a quarter of the way through the race, and I was having these issues. I'm like, this is not going to be a fun race at all, man. I don't like virtual, but that shouldn't mean my performance shouldn't be as bad. Granted, my training had got cut because the pandemic also came in, and the training during my 26 weeks, near the last couple months, then man, pandemic came and I couldn't do any training inside anymore. Had to do the training outside, which meant I couldn't train as many days as I was accustomed to doing for a race. So when it was happening, I'm thinking, okay, I just didn't get enough training in, and this is obviously what's going to happen because I never had that problem. I always got more than enough training in, so I was assuming at that time maybe this is what's happening. I'm just not fully trained, and let's just finish. Let's just finish because this is my last one anyway. I'm not trying to make any records. I just want to get it done. However, the closer it got to the halfway turnaround point, it was like, this is not making it because I could barely walk. I'm holding up my partner, and he walks way faster than me. And so he just stayed with me for protection for me to make sure I wasn't left out there in the woods by myself. So and when I got to the halfway point, and my husband was meeting us there to for because he was kind of like our refurnishing, giving us food or wherever was it needed. Because normally in a race, you have water stations, you have people that give you stuff. But if you're in a virtual, you got to have a support team. So he was our support team. So I just knew this is not happening. I said, God, just let me get to half a marathon and I'll be good. And I'm going to stop, even though I'm not a quitter. I'm not used to stopping. But I was like, there's no way. If I'm struggling like this for the first half, the second half, it's not worth it. Not worth it. I'm not trying to fall out and die or whatever, because this was definitely not me. So I had to stop. And that was the first time I ever quit any race, ever, ever. And it was like, wow. And I'm glad I did because then that enabled my partner to go at his pace and finish his half. And all we did was me and my husband became his support team and followed him the rest of the way, make sure he was cool to finish out the race while I recuperated being a support team member now. So normally when you don't finish a full or any race, you don't get a medal because you didn't finish the race. So, and this was a virtual, so I don't even know what would have went down. Well, when I got a medal, when I got a medal, the paddy wagon would have picked me up and took me back to the beginning of the race, and I'd have just been there either recuperating, go home, or waiting for my friend to come in, whatever, depending on the situation of who I was walking with. So in this case, with a virtual, and we had to record that we did whatever we did. I told them I only did 13.1. So I was anticipating, well, at the least, maybe if they gave me a medal, because I've seen them do it, they'll give you a half marathon medal. And I'd have been happy with that because that's all I did. Half marathon and then be all done. And that'd been my last adventure in doing a long distance race like that. But they didn't do that. They actually sent me the full marathon medal and a full marathon shirt of completion. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, wow. That felt like a lot of grace, like from God giving me like, wow, you finished half a marathon, but we're going to give you credit for a full. So that medal there, just every time I look at that, I'm like, wow, I wasn't even supposed to do that. I didn't even deserve it. I didn't finish it, but yet I got it anyway. So that was my last race. So now I just walk 5 days a week with friends. And that's more for health reasons to make sure I stay fit. Unfortunately, now since I'm not doing marathons, I gotta watch what I eat, so I can't eat anything I want to anymore. So that's the only thing I miss about marathons. So I gotta really watch my what I eat, and I still record what I eat to make sure I stay on track. Because I'm not trying back to go back to the overweight girl that wasn't happy because she was overweight. So I walk 5 days a week with friends. Every now and then I might walk by myself if friends aren't available, but most of the time I'm with friends. And it's so wonderful to walk with friends because when you're walking, your endorphins are on high and you just spew out stuff that you probably wouldn't say if you were sitting at a table talking over the day about what you're doing and what help you might need. Where you're walking, man, we talk about some of the craziest things, man. It's like, normally I wouldn't have told you that, but I'm just on this endorphin high, so I just got to get this out, whatever that is. So that's why I have such deep relationships with these friends because we all know each other's dirt because we've been talking about it over a whole lot of miles. So 5 miles a day, 5 miles a day, 5 days a week, I'm walking somewhere with friends just for health reasons so that this temple that the Holy Spirit is residing in can be healthy. So, and that we already all know that the walk we're really walking with God is a race. We are really in a race. We're not in a race to get a crown. We're not in a race to get some medals like I was getting t-shirts and all that other stuff. We're racing to get a crown that God has given us so we can be with him for eternal life. So I always like to think about this Acts 20:24, where it says, however, I consider my life worth nothing to me, and my only aim is to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me, the task of testifying to the good news of God's grace. So no matter what role God has you in, that role, that task is part of testifying the good news of his grace and talking about him wherever you are, because he puts us into these different, if you want to call it fishing ponds or areas so that we can share our life with people and how he is working with me in that case and how he's working with me finishing these darn races and marathons and what you got to eat and what you got to drink. Because I remember doing that with people all the time because you can tell when your body is getting ready to die and you need to do something. So if you don't do it now, you're out of here. So it was just fun just having those interactions with people and then still talking with God at the same time and what church I went to and whatnot. So that particular life phase of mine is over doing races. It's just that now I can walk instead with friends. And a lot of those friends are still my friends that I walked in races with. And some of them are people from church, some of them are family, some of them are all over the place. I'm walking with all kinds of people all the time. And I love doing that because it's just a cooler way to, and it's cheaper than sitting at a restaurant and eating over food that maybe we don't need to be eating, or we can be walking instead and talking about God and talking about what wonderful things He's doing in our lives and helping others in their health life and as well their spiritual life. I like to be able to say, when this is all done, I have fought the good fight and I have finished the race and I have kept the faith. So let us all be in that mindset that no matter where God puts us, whether it's working, physical, I don't know, because there's so many roles out there that God puts us in. Let us all be about fighting that good fight, doing whatever he tells us to do, because he has a purpose for each of us. And moving is one of them because he gave us all bodies to move, not bodies to sit and watch TV, playing games, whatever. He gave us bodies to move, to move, to move. There is nothing in the Bible that says to be sedentary is the way to go. So if you're even doing, especially if you're working and thinking about retiring in some years to come, think about what you're going to do. Keep it moving because the minute you stop moving, man, it's just a slow, agonizing death. So let's live life to the full, keep it moving so we can finish this race that God wants us to finish. So there's my walking journey that I'm still doing every day because I have to keep walking. I just love it when I get to travel because then I can walk some more. And it's just, walking is perfect. Because one thing about walking, unlike any other activity, being in the gym, which I already told you before, I don't like being in the gym. I might be in a pool in the gym, but to go and do all that, that's just a whole nother drama. I like classes every now and then, but that's not a regular. Walking is a regular. It's easy. It's cheap. You get all you need is tennis shoes and some good weekend clothes, and you're good to go. You can walk anywhere, anytime. I mean, I've walked in sandals, walking sandals. So I'm walking can happen anytime, anywhere, impromptu, planned. Keep it moving. Walk for God. See you next week as we talk about something else.